U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. is playing a crucial role helping to bring an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. On Wednesday, speaking on Fox Business's Kudlow, Rubio said that for the first time since the Trump administration took office, we have some concrete examples of the kinds of things that Russia would ask for in order to end the war. The comments come following a meeting between Kirill Dmitriev, the head of Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, and U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff earlier Wednesday. Dmitriev said a Trump-Putin meeting would allow Moscow to clearly convey its position, and he hoped a summit would include discussions on mutually beneficial economic issues, including joint investments in areas such as rare earth elements. Today was a good day, but we got a lot of work ahead. There's still many impediments to overcome, and we hope to do that over the next few days and hours, Rubio said. The announcement comes on the eve of a White House deadline for Moscow to show progress toward ending the 3-year-old war in Ukraine. A meeting would be a significant milestone in Trump's effort to end the war, although there's no guarantee that such a summit would stop the fighting since Moscow and Kiev remain far apart on their conditions for peace. Putin's foreign affairs advisor Yuri Ushakov said a summit could possibly take place next week. The meeting would be the first U.S.-Russia summit since 2021, when former President Joe Biden met Putin in Geneva. It would be a significant milestone toward Trump's effort to end the war, although there's no guarantee it would stop the fighting since Moscow and Kiev remain far apart on their conditions for peace.
No, I've always said this, that I think for the deal, if there's going to be a deal to end this war, it'll have to require the president to come in at the end and close on it, as I've seen him do numerous times now on trade deals as an example. So we got to get close enough to that point so that a meeting like that will be productive and worth doing. Today was a good day, but we got a lot of work ahead. There's still many impediments to overcome, and we hope to do that over the next few days and hours. What I can say is everybody wants the war to end. I think the conditions under which it's supposed to end that's always the hard part in this. But today was a good day, but there's a lot of work I don't want to exaggerate. We still have a ways to go here, but we certainly are closer today than we were yesterday, where we weren't close at all. But I think for the first time, perhaps since this administration began, we have some concrete examples of the kinds of things that Russia would ask for in order to end the war. We haven't had much of that to this point. Obviously, the Ukrainians have a say in this. We got to bring the two sides and the two positions close enough so that the ultimate closer, President Trump, can get involved and make it happen. This is important in the sense that we think what happened was good because we have a sense now of what conditions the Russians would require in order to end the war. Now, they may not be the conditions Ukraine can accept or, frankly, that others would accept, but at least we have something to work off of. So I think a lot of that is going to depend now on how close can we bring the two sides to each other? Can we make enough progress? Can we get 85% of the way there, 75% of the way there? Because I don't think you can have a leaders level meeting if you're not close enough, because then nothing's going to come of that meeting. We want to get it close enough, and then we want to give the president the opportunity to come in and close it. So I can't prejudge how long that could take. It could take hours. It could take days. Frankly, it could take weeks. We don't know. But we're going to try here. We're working on it, even as we speak.
Recently, Ukrainian military correspondent Konstantin Mashovets stated that Ukrainian forces are maintaining their positions in Novonikolayevka. Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War have voiced the situation in Sumy region. Thus, one of the Z publics associated with the northern group of Russian forces reported that the Ukrainian armed forces pushed back Putin's army between Kondratovka and Andreyevka. In this area, the enemy was surrounded by a water barrier on 3 sides at once. At the same time, some Russian war correspondents claim that the Russian armed forces are advancing near the international border in the Lukashovka area. On August the 3rd and 4th, Putin's army carried out a series of attacks on Ukrainian positions in the Kondratovka and Yunakovka areas. Mashovets writes that Ukrainian forces counterattacked in the Andreyevka and Kondratovka areas. According to Mashovets, units of the 11th and 83rd Airborne Brigades are operating in the area of Yablonovka, Vodolagi, and Varachino. Detachments of the 76th Airborne Division have been spotted in the area of Yunakovka. Occupiers from the 30th Motorized Rifle Regiment are also present in the Sumy region. Recall, recently, Ukraine has liberated the village of Kindrativka, in the northern Sumy region. The operation was carried out by military units and formations of the Ukrainian armed forces operating under the Kursk group of forces. Soldiers from the Alliance Division Assault Battalion of the 225th Separate Assault Regiment spearheaded the liberation effort. Kindrativka had been liberated by military units and subdivisions of the Defense Forces of Ukraine, which are part of the Kursk group of forces, as well as by forces and resources under the command of the senior officer, the armed forces stated. Stabilization measures are currently underway in the liberated settlement, they added. Earlier, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Oleksandr Syrsky, declared that Ukraine will no longer rely solely on static defense, but will integrate active defense with targeted counterattacks and scale up dedicated assault formations, with plans to broaden these units as implementation allows. We will not just stay in a blind defense, because that brings nothing and ultimately leads to retreat, losses of personnel and territory. Syrsky said, emphasizing the shift toward a more dynamic strategy. He noted that where possible, Ukrainian forces will strike the enemy, conduct counterattacks, and advance where weak points in the adversary's defenses are identified. Reports show that this active defense approach contributed to the recapture of 115 positions in April 2025, thanks in part to homegrown long-range deep strike drones and precise counterstrikes that disrupted Russian advances. For this, we have created and are scaling assault troop units, separate detachments and regiments formed at the outset of the Kursk operation. He continued, these formations are now engaged across the most challenging sectors of the front, countering enemy successes and liberating our settlements as demonstrated in the Sumy region, Syrsky explained.